யாருமில்லை கண்ணின் முன்னே காண்பதெல்லாம் உந்தன் மொழி தேடலொன்று நெஞ்சை தூண்டும் கேட்பதெல்லாம் உந்தன் மொழி மேகமே பொழி ராகமே உன்னை தேடினேன் நானே யாரும் இல்லை கண்ணின் முன்னே காண்பதெல்லாம் உந்தன் மொழி தேடலொன்று நெஞ்சை தோன்றும் கேட்பதெல்லாம் உந்தன் மொழி.
அறியாத காலத்தில் புரியாத புதிராகவே இருந்தாய் நீ. உன் நினைவுகளின் மயக்கத்தில் அணுவணுவாய் தடுமாறுகிறேன். நீதமும் நான் அறியாத காலத்தில் புரியாத புதிராகவே இருந்தாய் நீ. உன் நினைவுகளின் மயக்கத்தில் அணுவணுவாய் தடுமாறுகிறேன். மீதமும் நான் கவிதையாய் உனை கண்டேன். இசையாய் உருமாறினாய் என் மனதிலே அழியாமல்.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chai Time with BIX. This is our 4th session, and we're so excited that you're here with us today. My name is Annette Phillip.
I'm Lydia Reynolds.
And a big shout out to our third BIXie, Rohit Jayaraman, who will be back with BIX in September. Now, due to COVID, we are working with less staff and reduced hours. And if you're watching, Rohit, we love you and we miss you. For everyone who's joining us today, tell us where you're tuning in from. We'd love to know. Now, Chai Time with BIX is very close to our hearts. If you're an artist and you feel vulnerable or nervous or confused at times as an artist, well, this is your home. Most interviews we've seen have focused on primarily the big achievements of any artist. And we wanted to do a series at Berklee India Exchange about how to grow rather than simply celebrating big wins.
We'd really love for this entire session to be interactive. So before we start, please hit share so that your friends and family can join us. If you want to stay in touch with BIX, we have posted all of our social media links at the top of the chat. So just check them, follow us, whatever it needs to be, whatever you're not connected with us already. We'd love for you to connect with us. And finally, we do ask you to post and ask questions in the chat so that we can keep track of them throughout the entire session. If you think of something, just put it right in. We will keep note and bring it back in the Q&A.
Thank you, Lydia. So Chai Time with BIX is about artists who carve out a niche for themselves in unconventional ways. And our guests today are the perfect example of this. Anindo Bose and Pavithra Chari are two of the most incredible musicians I have personally ever met. Together, they form the contemporary classical duo Shadow and Light. Since their first release in 2014, Shadow and Light has become one of the fastest rising indie bands in India, performing in the neoclassical space. They were featured on the cover of Rolling Stone India magazine. They have 3 studio albums released worldwide. They have done tours in India, in Sri Lanka, in the United States, including an amazing collaboration with Garsh Kale and even opening for Anushka Shankar. Now, notably, very recently, Avishai Cohen awarded Shadow and Light his 2020 award, singling them out of 160 bands from all over the world. They were also the first indie collaborators with the Berklee Indian Ensemble. And just last month, they released their latest single with the incredible Haricharan that you would have heard us play just before we went live. Now the list about Shadow and Light goes on and on. Most importantly, they're two of the most hardworking, kind, humble, ridiculously talented, beautiful people. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Anindo Bose and Pavithra Chari of Shadow and Light. Welcome to Chai Time with Bix.
Hi
Hello.
everyone.
Hi,
How's
hi,
it
Lydia.
going?
So good. We're so happy to see you. Yeah, and
Pleasure's
you,
all ours.
you're so sweet. You have mugs. Tell us about your mugs and also what you're drinking today.
Okay, I'm having some nice Assam tea,
Oh.
and it's a nice time to have tea actually for us here.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's nice. It's just I have actually been feeling a little, kind of a mild headache. I think the humidity gets to me,
Oh.
but I think this really works. And there's a little birdie here to help me with that.
Oh, it's your sweet. I love that.
Okay, so I'm having my all-time favorite green tea with mint and lemon and honey.
Oh.
And this is a mug. Actually, both the mugs were gifted to us by our dear friend Ritnika. And a funny story about this mug is that I really like animal prints, like on my clothes, in my pajamas, hopefully sometime in my sofa and curtains as well. But I really like animal prints, and I fell in love with this mug, which was originally given for Ani.
Aw.
And I fell in love with it so much that I think in the first week of us having it, someone made a little chip. And I was so heartbroken that now it only stays as a showpiece. I lost the purpose of the mug completely.
Oh.
And I just protected it in my showpiece. It's come out for the first time since then.
Oh, very
for
good.
BIX and Chai Time.
Well, it makes a lot of sense because Lydia is a bona fide owl obsessed person, right?
This one's for you, Lydia.
Just a little bit. I approve
Yeah.
strongly.
Yeah, she very much approves. All right. Well, thank you, Lids. Lids is going to be back with us in a little bit to talk about questions from the audience. So we'll see you in a little bit, darling. And let's talk about Shadow and Light. So, first off, I would love to talk about time. For so many artists, especially people starting out, I think the thing they often take for granted is the amount of time it takes to make something grow, to nurture it, to help it evolve, to finally get momentum. And in that context, can you tell us briefly about how Shadow and Light came to be? I know you didn't know each other, right? So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, to keep it short, we kind of bumped into each other during the audition of a musical that I was writing music for. And we stayed in touch at the end of the auditions, and I was really blown away by her vocal audition because she was, I think, the only person who sang an original for the audition as opposed to singing, something popular. And of course, when you play those scales and little notes here and there, I mean, I could instantly tell that she's got strong ears. I just, played some complicated passages, and she was just, nailing that. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, wow, this is great. I mean, it's nice to work with somebody experienced. Yeah, I mean, she can continue. and
Yeah,
tell
I
me
mean,
more.
right after that, we didn't really keep in touch during the musical, but then we
Uh-huh.
stayed in touch on Facebook. And I wanted to create like a vocal demo, and Ani has a great studio in Delhi, so I thought I'll record it there. But his only kind of condition was that you have to write something original. So in the
Nice.
past, I had sung something that someone had written for me as a collaborator, and that was an original song, but I'd never written anything myself. And I was like, okay, well, if this is the condition, then I'm up for the challenge. And I wrote something called, the opening lines of the song were Shadow and Light. And I sent it to him, and he was like, it's really nice. Can I arrange on it? And I was like, please. I have nothing right now. Let's do this.
And for those who chatted with me in the past, they know that I'm always up and chatting. I mean, I cut across time zones, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I received this demo of hers, I think sometime at midnight or something, and I was just like, okay, I'll just quickly. I was just finishing a mix, and then I heard it. I was like, wow, this is very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's try something out. And like she mentioned, I put a little arrangement on it. It was barely 90 seconds of it,
Huh.
and I sent it to her, and I didn't know, I mean, where that would
So
go.
long story short, that was our first song, and then
Yeah.
we didn't really stop writing from there, and we never intended it to be the performance outfit that it is now in tours and stuff. We're very
Yeah.
grateful that we're there, but it was
Yeah.
actually just an expression of two very different people coming together in music.
I love that. And I mean, if I think about timeline and why I'm focusing on this so much is because so many people I think have beautiful ideas and then they get disheartened along the way because nothing's happening, it's not moving, I don't know what to do. And I remember you told me that you wrote that first song sometime in 2012, but the first show was actually 2014, right? 2 years ago, which I'm very happy that I attended. I also predicted that you would get married, and I'm right. So, but talk about for a second patience that is needed as individuals and also in the industry. And also once you're on the journey, like kind of on the roller coaster, even then taking time to decide the next step and not being hasty.
I think all of that credit, or at least most of the credit of that patience, will go to Ani, because I'm nowhere near a generally patient person. I must claim that before anyone else does. So for us, I remember even talking to Ani when we had written, maybe we were 2 songs old, and I was like, it'd be great to perform this somewhere. And he was like, no, we have to really think this through, you have a number of cables, you need to make the right sound. You can't just go and do something when you're not completely prepared.
And this was actually like a SoundCloud project for us. It was
Right.
not even Shadow and Light. The name wasn't even there. She used to just upload the songs on her account, and I would do the same. I was new to SoundCloud, and what was really interesting is that there were people who had never heard us. We didn't know them, so to hear feedback from people across the world, that's a morale booster of sort.
For sure.
I know I have had experience playing live, but for a new outfit to again go through that process, but to do it through social media, that was an amazing experience. I mean, I also like to say the first song, we had only written half the song, and it took us, I think, 5 months to just find time to even finish that song, the second half of it, because she was still busy with college then. And she came, I think, after finishing her first year exams or something, and said, would you like to finish this song? And we hadn't uploaded it, and we were like, let's try and see if we can even reconnect and actually finish a song. So it's all about waiting and
also
patience.
in terms of like performance, I feel like we have a very unique performance outfit because of perhaps having backing tracks, and we also perform as a band, but as a duo is where I feel most in identity. But so we had to get everything right. And so multiple test runs, and it really showed me that you need to get completely comfortable with something before you bring it out. And there's no hard, it's not a wrong thing to take as much time as you need. It'll be worth it in the end.
And I had never performed solo as a solo instrumentalist. I mean, Shadow and Light the instrumental section is completely me. And I had never done duo sets even as part of other outfits that I had performed in, or even a live performance. So I was still feeling very nervous about that first show. And especially when you're relying on a computer, the last thing you want is it to hang in between a set. And we have had those incidents, and it's only taught us that we have to pull through no matter what. And it's just calming down, calming yourself, and just saying, okay, you know what, there's a reason for it to not work, but we'll figure it out.
Even songs, we've taken years to finish
we've taken
one
2
song.
years to finish one song.
We've actually gone ahead, written the entire album, and then come back to that one song because something didn't feel right.
Right.
So
And I think that's important for people, no matter what age they are, to learn and start to apply to their lives, because it's also the same way I think about relationships, about companies, about recipes that you're trying. I know Ani has recently started cooking omelets and things like that. So, as in, the progress that comes through time is more important than how quickly you achieve something. And so I love that about the two of you, and I think there's a lot people can get from that. And the other very interesting thing for me about Shadow and Light is juxtaposition, right? Like shadow and light. Okay, in the name itself, it's there. In the music that you create, you're juxtaposing Indian classical, which is much more Pavithra's background, and Ani's background, which is very varied, but at the same time, it's, if you had to really break it down, Indian classical and, let's say, Western harmonic concepts. And then your personalities, very different, which we will talk about later. And for me, I think the most interesting is how you acquired knowledge. Now, Pavithra, you've been training since, let's say, the age of 4 or 5, both in Indian classical dance and music, and there's so much dedication, discipline, commitment, and structure that is part of that world. And Oni, on the complete opposite, again juxtaposing, you are completely self-taught on piano, on guitar, you play a little bass, you can play pretty much any rhythm section instrument. I don't know what else, which I haven't caught up with. You're also self-taught as an engineer, mixing, mastering. Your chops are incredible. And you have that same dedication, discipline, commitment, but no structure. So how did you, Oni, specifically, learn to learn this way?
That's a very good question. When I look back, it I think started out during school days, but I was quite shy and very quiet in school. I don't think many people knew I even played the keyboard, but I really, found it very interesting to break down songs and to be able to rearrange them. I had very basic softwares back then. I think Cakewalk version 2 or 3 or something, and it wasn't even a registered version, so it would just quit in 10 minutes. So I would have to resequence something, and then everything would just go off. And I had, tried to keep myself patient even then,
Right.
because I had to try and somehow save that idea, and just, that was good practice actually, because I would just know I'm working on time, but I would just break down songs. And because of the kind of music I would listen to, all thanks to my dad and mom,
Floyd.
I got into a lot of classic rock. Floyd, of course, because it was my favorite act then.
Yeah.
I started, sequencing songs for myself, and I learned so much because of that, that I didn't even realize when it actually seeped in. So when I actually started writing songs, I could figure out how arrangements work, how to make something moody, vibey, whether it's funky, and all that knowledge that I acquired without even trying to acquire it, kind of just started coming out. And it was more about then just practicing what I liked. I never practiced scales on the keyboard. I would actually play drum grooves on the keyboard, and I felt that was kind of helping me more in terms of like technically, like independence of fingers. I'm trying to keep time but think of music from another musician's perspective. So all these things kind of really taught me a lot. And I guess when I started performing live, it struck me that we need to sound better on stage and be comfortable with ourselves, and somehow we weren't able to communicate better with the engineer outside. That's when I started getting more into that, one person at least from the band needs to take charge to be able to say things better. And I got more and more intrigued with sound and live sound. And then it started about making demos, little vocal demos, maybe one instrument along with it. And I remember even waiting for a bus to go by because I didn't have soundproof rooms. And I wait for vehicles to stop honking, and then try and record a line, put that
We've
down.
been there. I mean,
Oh yes.
yeah, so
But it
many
all
years of
started like
recording. Yeah.
like that, and then over the years it's just building on that experience.
Yeah, I think it's so important for, again, people of all ages, because one of the emails or DMs that I get often on social media is, I don't have the money to go abroad. I don't have the money to even have a teacher in my country, and basically I'm going to give up on my musical aspiration because there's no way for me to learn. And I wonder, even, Oni, I mean, this is like possible side career, actually doing a course about how to go from self-study to mastery, because really that's what you've done. And then on the flip side, Pavithra, with the amount of structure you've had, how did you learn to or get comfortable with disrupting that structure, especially as a classical musician? And I think the stereotype that what classical music should look like, sound like, feel like, be portrayed as. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
For me, training has shaped my life beyond anything else. I actually can't even imagine my life without training of any form. And in general, also, I love organization, lists on lists on lists. So it really fits with my lifestyle, I guess. But yeah, the idea of the amount of foundation I've built because of classical music. I felt that it gave me that much freedom to become versatile, to explore different styles, and also understand what the foundation of those styles possibly are. I'm nowhere near reaching any end goal here, even within Hindustani classical, but I feel like it gave me a lot to explore within my own voice, to see where I have certain areas of improvement where I am very comfortable with. And when it came to Shadow and Light, I feel two things were really important. It was right when I didn't expect it and I didn't plan around it, as opposed to everything else that I've done, where I have dates, buffer dates, extra buffer dates, all of that. So it happened so
love it.
seamlessly and organically that I just found myself, like I tell Ani, suddenly I was in the independent scene. I'm like, what
Yeah.
is happening?
This wasn't the
And
goal, right? I mean, this wasn't
yeah.
part of the dream even. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was incredibly liberating to completely write, create music from thin air, and I'd never experienced that. And for me, I think, like I said, two things. One was that it caught me off guard. So it was as spontaneous as it could be, with
Right.
all the fear and all the pleasure, I would say. And the second thing is, both my gurus have been so appreciative of the music and of me being part of a contemporary classical act, where they respect that side of my musicality as well. My first guru, Sri Satyanarayan Maharana, was super fan of Shadow and Light, and also Shubhaji, incredibly supportive. In fact,
Yeah.
the first words she told me was, "Your great songwriting," and I was just in awe for like 10 days at the end of that.
Oh,
But
it
yeah,
is.
those two
I mean,
things
it's
helped
a
me.
fact. It is a fact because your songwriting is really nuanced and it's really very much your own. And I think that's also what Avishai Cohen said to you, right, in his response to you for the 2020 award. And it's no small feat. And so I think that's what I that always draws me to the music, and also knowing, like, of course, I kind of grew up with Oni, so I know him very well, and then getting to know you and seeing just how different you are, and also how it works. It's it's amazing. And I think for our young musicians, there's no one way to learn, right? There's no one correct way or wrong way to acquire knowledge. You can learn and do, and you can do and learn, no matter what. And so the leading question from that is, definitely, I'm sure you have differences of opinions. And so how do you how do you manage that, both from an interpersonal thing and also from a band perspective? Are there weaknesses that each other has that maybe helps the band? That I'm just curious about this whole management.
I definitely, we do have differences in opinion, and which is why the music also becomes contrasting, and the kind of moods that we explore. But even in our lives, in our own personalities, I think that shadow and light concept actually works. Sometimes you just find certain things are not clear. Maybe you're not open and upfront. So you throw some light into it. And if it's like certain
Pavitra is looking at you like
Starting.
certain
okay.
aspects might be like coming too strong maybe as a personality, then you can just always back down a bit, and then just try and look at the overall picture, and then instead of reacting immediately, it's very important to listen, and I think that's something that we're learning as well,
Yep.
because it's different when you're just writing songs, but when you're living with your partner, you're growing,
Whole other ball
and
game.
and all at all times we try and make sure that nothing ever affects this songwriting outfit of ours.
Yeah, yeah.
It's almost like this is our kind of
We'd leave
main
anything
thing. Yeah,
for it.
that's what keeps us going,
Yeah.
and we try and work everything around it.
Say that again. We'd leave anything for it means it is what?
The songwriting.
The song,
the music
unit,
that we create
that's
together.
what's
That's
brought us
most
together,
important.
and somehow it just feels like that is the comfort space for us.
Yeah.
And we love going back to it. If there's
Yeah.
something, there might be an off day, we've had an argument, but you write a song and then everything just falls into place.
And also within songwriting, I feel we're exploring really diverse, not just musically, but also opinion-wise. How do you want to put the music out? How do you want to market it? How do you want to promote it? Do you want to shoot a video? Do you not want to do a photo shoot kind of thing? And
Right.
I feel like that difference of opinion is really important. And we take, like I said, years to make decisions. We think and overthink and ask people, but we also, we put in our own thoughts there. But and we've kind of started moving that musical relationship, because in the beginning, Ani would be focused on his material, his contribution to the songwriting, and I would be focused on mine. It was very parallel in the sense. It would
Right.
come
And
together
boxed,
to the end.
sort of. Yeah.
And we were enjoying that freedom. But slowly, I have started listening beyond just my vocals or the vocal lines, and I'm like, oh, that key, that chord there, or that string line. And he's talking about, this melody, and he'll try to sing it, which is hilarious. But those things kind of come in, and we're exploring that part of our musical relationship, and that's tricky, but it's really important.
But and also, if you look at the song itself is very simple. I mean, that's just one part of it. But I mean, like she said, like as you're growing, as the outfit grows and you get to know each other, it's like these tiny verticals grow out of that song. And it's just branching out, and there are these various things like she's mentioning. Suddenly you're thinking about how do you sell that music,
Right.
instead of just thinking about, oh, this is a lovely song that we've come up with. Suddenly you're thinking, oh, who might sound better live when they when we try and play this live, or what needs to be happening behind us when we're playing this live. So many different things, so that suddenly that song kind of becomes like this gigantic thing, and you don't want to complicate it too much either.
Right.
So you have to constantly battle that out. You have to break down. Suddenly all that extra stuff distracts you, and then you stop writing, because you're writing for all those verticals but the song itself, so that gets lost.
You just have to remind yourself.
Yeah, you should keep reminding yourself that this is why you're here. This is the first step.
It feels like that's your probably spoken or even unspoken, or just intrinsically understood commitment that you both have as a romantic couple, a married couple, and as a band. And I love that. I think, again, that's an important lesson for many people. And with your permission, I would also love to talk about, a lot of people being very afraid to be romantically involved with someone that they work with, right? And that's one aspect. And the second aspect is age. Especially in India, there's such a stigma about marrying someone who's not exactly in your, same age group, or maybe 2 to 4 years is okay, but anything beyond that is like, and it's, why even marrying someone who's older than you, especially a man marrying an older woman, like that's unheard of in your situation as well. I'm curious, did you both go through any personal questions about that? And I mean, I have the insider, knowledge that there was a long period of transition into agreeing that this was more than a professional thing. So talk about that, whatever you feel comfortable being open about.
I think it was a friendship that gradually grew, and like I said, for us, since the music and the songwriting was always the focus, it was always a nice space to be within, where you share this common interest. So even if you're spending time, if she's just even coming over to meet me, if you're writing a song, then maybe you take a break and you're just chatting, yapping, catching up, and then again the song kind of just links you through. And I don't think we've ever dated in the conventional sense, where people expect you to meet and get to know someone. I think it's just sometimes it's an overrated term. You just meet friends, and you meet some friends more often. It's just very simple if you look at that, and if they inspire you in some way and you look forward to meeting with them and they bring out something better in you, or you can help them see a better version of themselves, those kind of things I think work.
I think we just found we found safe space in each other to share things that perhaps, at least for me, it was quite stark, but to become this vulnerable with a human being in terms of what I was thinking, or all of the 100 questions that I had in mind, and all of the baggage that I'd carried from school perhaps, and my experience of within and also outside of music, of just interacting with people. And I personally don't make that many friends. It's something I'm working on this year. But it's a place that always had a little bit of gap in my life. And I felt like Ani was very quickly and then kind of seamlessly kind of fit in that space of providing safe space.
Right.
And we thought a very long time, even though you
Extremely
realize
long.
that you're close with someone.
Yeah.
I still took a lot of time
I
because
know.
I did I didn't want the
And
music to
it's
stop.
it's strange because when you kind of become so close and you're best buddies,
Hmm.
it's hard to talk to somebody else. Who's that other best buddy who's going to guide you?
Right.
We'd end up calling each other about ourselves. It was like that.
Hilarious. Yeah, so I was like, Ani, I have a problem, but also the problem is you.
It's
so
you.
let's discuss.
Yeah. Well, it's you go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just saying, I took a very long time, and so did he, to figure out that you don't spook another person if the answer is different from
Right.
what they want. That is completely acceptable. Secondly, you give music the space, and you don't let your personal closeness or relationship ruin the music, because that is different. Music is
Thank
what
you.
started us. So music will sustain us, whether we do or we don't.
And I think also the fact that once we expressed, once I expressed interest in, pursuing a relationship with her, the fact that nothing changed in her overall, closeness or behavior with me and the songwriting, I think just made me believe more in myself that,
Yeah.
this is a good person to be with.
That's so beautiful.
No
Safe
idea
space.
where it will go, but it was like, okay, this is genuinely a person who believes more in the friendship and, believes you as a
Yeah.
person, what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
rare.
The same way of taking time for music. You take time to really see how, when it became beyond music, how does that person react under stress? How does that person react when really things go wrong? And things have. We've been stranded in the middle of the road with instruments and all that in a strange land. All
Yeah.
that has happened. And in terms of the age, I would say age was definitely a consideration. I will not say age is just a number.
For you.
Yeah, for me, definitely. When I thought about it. And it was something that I factored into a number of things. Again, I made mental lists, as we know. So it was part of that. And it was an informed decision, because as I grow up and I understand life around me, I really understand that there are lots of societal implications and societal approvals that we seek, because it makes us feel comfortable in a communal environment.
Right.
But does it actually give us what we want from inside?
Thank
and will we
you.
be able to live with us if we choose otherwise? So those were some of my considerations when it came to age.
I love
but
it.
I did think about it.
I know you thought about it. The interesting thing is, so my first time meeting you ever was at that first show. And I went
Oh, yeah.
backstage to Ani, and I don't know if Ani told you this, but I went backstage and I said, "Yeah, please marry this girl. I mean, you're just made for each other." And he was like, "What? No!" And being typical Ani. And then, of course, I'm really happy that more than being happy about the fact that you two met and you create the art that you do, and that you then are now creating a family as you are together. I am really amazed and in awe and appreciative and so delighted that you did it this way, your way, which was so much both of your ways complementing each other. And that, I think that is just something, you're a case study for me. I just love it. I love
I
it.
can also add that the way we got married was also quite interesting.
Yes, that's
Now
right.
that it's bringing me back, it's
Yeah.
been a year, I can't believe it. But
Yeah.
Almost a year.
we
Wow.
we chose to celebrate cultures and
Yeah.
not any of the baggage around it, or
And
perhaps
talk
stereotypes
about
and
that,
religion.
because you are from, and where Ani's from, technically in India. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I'm a Tamil girl from Chennai, and I've lived in Delhi most of my life.
I'm Bengali, but born and brought up in Delhi. But I mean, yeah, I guess the common ground becomes the Delhi, schooling and upbringing.
Sure.
But I mean, I guess our personality types and our family's personality types really blended
They do
well.
match. Yeah.
And I think that's also important, and it just makes things more comfortable. And
Yeah.
it's important to have a clear, communication with your parents whenever you do choose to bring it up. But at the same time, it has to be about two people who decide to be together. It
Right.
can't be about anybody else.
So we
Yeah.
did have a long debate, structured debate, where I Googled all the things that happen in traditional marriages in India.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Religion-based
Yeah.
ceremonies, and then I debated about why that's not for us. and why that's possibly misogynistic or patriarchal.
Yes.
And why we
Go.
believe more in the spirituality of things. So we
Uh-huh.
celebrated, we did a banana leaf lunch, which was
Yeah.
celebrating Tamil culture. We did really amazing sweets for the ring ceremony, which was just all just family, friends, stuff like that. And we did
Yeah.
only one gathering for friends. So we
Right.
celebrated with food, which
Mhm.
we both
I'm
Makes
actually
total
glad that it was a
sense,
very
yes.
simple overall,
Yeah,
process,
no,
because people could actually
yeah.
get in touch with each other and talk
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of just having to focus at some massive event that's
Yeah,
happening.
because the marriage itself, the wedding, not the marriage, the wedding becomes a performance
Yeah.
for a lot of
Yeah.
people. So I love that. And I think that that is a good segue into to my next question about being misfits and about being proud to be misfits. And I want to, I remember the first time I met Ani was at a rehearsal to do a Great Gig in the Sky, which is a Floyd song for anyone who doesn't know. And it was a, it was a rock, progressive, well, I would say rock, metal, heavy, hard rock
Yeah,
band called Friday the 13th. And I got to the room. I didn't know, I knew a few people. And there were, let's say, 8 people in the, how many people were there in the band?
yeah, we were about 17.
7, 8 people.
Yeah, yeah.
And Oni stuck out really like a sore thumb because he was this very unassuming, very thin,
Extremely thin.
creature behind this massive keyboard and not having any of the kind of the airs and graces or arrogance or even language, I would say, of what you typically feel about that genre. And then he started playing and it was like, oh, yeah, well, of course, you're totally this. And what I loved about that was, there's no, there, we don't have to, as artists, take on every aspect of the stereotypical box that our art form happens to sit in right now. And I think you both do that. You've done that with your lives, with your wedding, with your music as well. I love that about you. And in general, what's your misfit feeling, or even advice for someone? And both of you, it's really not just to Anya. That was just an example.
I can start. I
Yeah.
feel like so I don't blend into a general room with people of my age because I'm too mature. And I don't blend, yes, all of the air quotes. And I don't blend in a room of much older people because I'm physically younger. So forever I have assumed that my weirdness is kind of my strength, but it's one of the things that doesn't get me friends. So
I see.
I'm hoping to change it into it's the thing that gets me friends this year. But
Yeah.
I've always felt I'm either too young or I'm too old. That is always there.
Yeah. And Ani, did you ever feel kind of left out in bands or again?
Well,
Yeah.
it's true. I mean, what you said, and now when I, look back, a lot of that is still very much true for myself. When I am a really quiet person when it comes to the actual performance of, stage, let's say, you know, stage body language or sorts. Right from the days of, let's say Friday the 13th or even Artists Unlimited with
Yeah.
large choirs performing with, I'm feeding off the energy, of course. So I might be smiling occasionally, or somebody might accidentally just catch me beyond just that. So, but I mean, I guess for me as a performer, once I start playing, I just lose myself in that moment, and suddenly everybody's just gone. And I feel that I again find that more comfortable to me than, let's say, looking into another bandmate and vibing and really expressing myself in a certain way. It has changed over time. I think, become more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, like, doing a photo shoot or a video shoot or performing, I definitely am very awkward. I have no qualms of, not being. But I mean, it's always nice to have people around you who can push you to getting out of that, rather than saying, hey, come on, do that. That doesn't
Right.
work. I think
Right.
that's something I also feel about generally as, performers, or when you're in the studio, if somebody's coming to record, I can't get a performance out of a person. I have to be there to make sure that that person is bringing that out from themselves. So I know that point of view, and I kind of try and use that to bring out the best of somebody who's coming to perform, or if it's just a chat, if I'm having one with somebody else and they're very quiet, I wouldn't keep saying, "Hey, come on, say something."
Right.
I would wait. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely say misfit when it comes to like
yeah.
a lot of body movement, and later
King and
on.
queen of misfits.
But I do look at it later on. I mean, in the video, and I'll be like, God, I was that still. That's why I'm never in the photo shoots. I'm always cut. The zoom out angle will be left exactly where the keyboard ends, and you can
Yeah.
see the hands
You can
maybe,
see
and
your,
just an occasional
yeah.
shot of me.
Yeah.
And somebody will say, "Oh, there was a keyboard player, right?"
Yeah. Well, I think at least for your collaboration with Berklee, we tried to get that part correctly done.
Yes.
And I know that I think it's something many people struggle with is where does it where does your personality and your persona as an artist kind of meet or end or mesh together, and I think this might be a good time to talk about the residency that you did with the Berklee Indian Ensemble. Lydia was already working with us. I want to bring Lydia back. Yeah. And it was a gala time. Also, Oni ate many more vegetables than ever when we
Oh
took you
my
to
God.
Chinese hot
Shocker.
pot. Shocker of the century.
Oh my God.
But more importantly, we got a chance to cover and reinterpret one of your most beautiful songs called Dua. And I'd love to have us give a taste of that to our audience. And before we start, will one of you tell us what the song is about?
Sure. Dua is basically like a wish, and like many wishes that we keep making on a regular basis. I feel like when writing the song, I strongly felt that we don't experience the present and the moment. We wish for something, it comes to us, we're like, okay, what's next on the list? We don't even experience what we've received. And that cycle, I felt, at the time was running my life,
Huh.
I had, again, lists on lists on lists and wishes on wishes on wishes, and I was ticking them because I was working very hard to tick them
Yeah.
off, but not a second did I take to celebrate or just breathe out when I got something, and I
Right.
just skipped to the next thing. So Dua is a musical expression of that feeling.
That's beautiful. Lydia, please, let's take them through it.
जिंदगी में रही ना कोई, फिर भी मांगे नहीं है रुकी। जिंदगी में रही ना कोई, फिर भी मांगे नहीं है रुकी। उठने दो, रुकने दो, उठने दो, फिरने दो, समझने दो, हंसने दो, रोने दो, खुद को खोकर पाने दो, उड़ने दो। उड़ने दो, उड़ने दो, उड़ने
And we got Ani in that last shot. It's so beautiful to relive this, and a big, big, big special shout out to the batch of that 2018 spring semester
Amazing.
that
Each
was
and
part of
everyone,
this.
that we
Yeah.
could feel that energy in that room, and
Yeah.
I mean, thanks to you guys for
Yeah.
Having us.
it was incredible. Yeah.
It was such an amazing time and one of our favorite residencies, really. And one of your fans actually had sent in a question to ask about your songwriting process.
Well, Our songwriting.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
you
think
breathed in.
we follow a very simple process. Essentially, the melody is everything.
Yeah.
And whether that's a piano-based riff, which is the melody, or the vocal line itself. Uh, but I mean, the idea is, the essence is always to go with that little thread that kind of stitches the entire song together, and everything else kind of comes in. That's the main thing that makes, I mean, the overall decisions that we take towards writing each song. But having said that, sure, there could be a sound design of sort that can inspire you to write something. So a song like Dream Gone Wrong, for those of you who are watching, maybe you would like to hear that. It's just basically a synth drone which has this haunting melody, and that inspired us to write, something around it. Sometimes it'll be a melody line that she comes up with.
Yeah, for us, yeah, melody is the goddess, but also the melody and the music and the sound design are all telling you the same narrative. They're all creating pieces of. So if that narrative is not consistent from all of our little pieces, even a little sound or even a little patch or hum perhaps, then the song falls apart. So for us, the melody drives the narrative, and the narrative is the main thing that we want to
I mean,
showcase.
we'd like to maybe mute the vocal line and just hear the entire arrangement through, and we try and see if the same story is being told through the chord
Exactly.
changes or the mood or the way it's being mixed, or maybe just the piano part in itself without anything else. Does it have a certain way that it's building towards the next section? There's got to be some tension and release through, and that contrast needs to be there, and that, I think.
Yeah, and for us, it's a
yeah.
simple test. If we don't get goosebumps and feel it, then the song is not ready yet. So we wait years and years for that to happen. If it happens, immediately let's release it.
I love that, and I think that's a great. It's a great tool, I think, for people who are in doubt. Though I will say that there are times where people don't release anything because they just can't feel that it's good enough ever. So have you been there too?
Absolutely, and it's
many times.
happened so often. But I would say that when it happens early on in your musical career, there are more chances of you feeling bogged down and just give up on it. But I would say definitely that you need to put those ideas out. That energy needs to come out, because unless you push that out, there's no way to know what's inside you. And it's very easy to get stuck in a rut and just doubting yourself, and that self-doubt puts more pressure. And it's very important to also vibe with musicians who push you, rather than pushing you inwards further by constantly saying no, this is not good, or whatever it is.
Right.
So it's important to find people who inspire you.
Also, for one of our songs, literally a mic was shoved right here, and I was told to just sing. Don't think, sing. Just sing. And that was, I think, Blue, our second song, and I was like, what is happening? And we just did it just like that.
Yeah, that was, I think, one of the only times where it was just like, we have to just write a song.
Yeah, just sing.
There was absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
No
but it was just
preconceived
like one of those-
concept. Yeah.
absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Most of the times, I mean, we do write without too much pressure of what it's going to sound like or what the style is.
Yeah.
But this was one of those days where like it was absolutely a blank slate, and it's a good feeling sometimes to be in that, and you're caught off guard, and you came up with a
It
song.
changes
thankfully.
lives, actually, those
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah. Yeah. I think some of my favorite songs are the ones that happen in like 7 minutes. The whole thing is done.
Oh,
But
yes,
those
yeah.
moments are far and few between. And I think what Ani said earlier about putting it out anyway, because it's a testament of who you are in that moment or that phase. And at the same time, critique is such a soul crushing thing at times, and soul enriching thing also at other times. So have you had really odd comments from people in the industry, or from fans on social media, or from family, where you like it did one or the other, and or how did you get over it? Like, because you obviously have gotten over whatever negativity or negative feedback, because there's a difference between constructive and just purely negative feedback, right? So talk to us about that.
I get bogged down quite often. And the first thing I've developed over the last few years is to allow myself to process that negativity. I don't want to shut it out. I don't want to forget about it. That doesn't ever happen for me. I allow myself to wallow for a few days,
Yeah.
feel bad, talk more to my plants, yell at people a little bit, mostly Yanni. But I allow myself to do that, and I think that gives me the strength to then break down that comment and see where I can find inspiration to improve and what I need to just remove because it doesn't apply to me.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
love that.
my process.
This is very good.
I think one of the funniest comment, which also hit hard, was like, why do you guys even want to perform live? You guys shouldn't be playing live.
That one still rings in my
Yeah,
ears
just
sometimes.
remain a studio project or something. And we were very surprised, because this is when you're going with
Wow.
the thought in your mind that here's a person who might help you perform better,
Yeah.
or
Right.
just take you and show the world.
And they're like,
yeah.
bhai, yaar mat karo.
Karo hi mat. I
Why
was
are
like,
you
what?
doing it? And we were like, wait a minute, are you in the right profession? No, maybe
Oh.
not. We definitely are. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
so it's all right. I mean, things that need to be taken in, kept with, you rather do that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just like a bad arrangement call. You leave it in the song and the song will sound bad, and
Yeah.
you need to mute certain things. So I just look at it purely as an arranger point of view. I mean, there will be views and comments that keep coming through, and I'll just say, okay, mute,
Yeah.
Yeah.
delete. Next.
That's good.
What's next? It is hard, of course, but I mean, that's an experience thing also. When you're starting out, when you have absolutely nothing, it'll hit much harder.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can only push yourself once you know that maybe those comments are also coming in from insecurity that those people might have.
Yeah. And most important is to find a safe space, whether it's part of your support system, whether you want to find it in a friend or a peer, someone whose opinion you respect, and that person becomes a safe space. So even if you need a shoulder to, just wait out a few
Right.
days and get over the comment or work on the comment, that
Yeah.
person will be
Sharing is important. I
Yeah,
think.
sharing it is
Sharing
definitely important.
Yeah.
As in sharing it with other people.
Yeah, the
who
people
you
you
trust.
find.
Who you trust.
Yes.
You,
That's
your
yes.
safe
most
space.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's important, and like I said, it can be so soul crushing. So I love what you said, that process it anyway, even if you don't agree with it, because sometimes there's a shred of truth that maybe you're not willing to see in yourself or admit to yourself or accept about
Definitely.
yourself or your project. And yeah, knowing where to draw the line is, I guess, the mastery, right? So, and so tell me about what do you both struggle with the most? Just and maybe it's not a musical thing, maybe it's a personal thing.
Yeah, patience.
Just patience.
It's my tagline.
You're with the sant next to you.
And with the album being called Suburb,
Yes.
imagine.
I feel like that was a pun on me. But okay.
Actually, Lydia had a question from an audience member about Sabar. Bringing Lydia back, someone had asked this question, right? Like, why?
They asked why the Sabar album is unavailable on apparently most platforms at the moment, especially they singled out YouTube and JioSaavn.
Yeah, so it was off for a brief period because of the change in the back end data. So now it's on Apple Music and iTunes and Spotify everywhere. And it's still on our SoundCloud pages. It'll be back on
is
Saavn
on
specifically
yeah, Saavn is the
and
only thing it's
YouTube
on,
maybe
yeah.
in a week's time.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
it's just a little back end.
Amazing.
Gotcha.
Glad
Well-
we cleared that up.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt the answer, but you said patience and then Sabar, and I was like, perfect timing.
We'll
Okay.
post all the links on the comments
Yeah, we'll
later.
post it.
Yeah. I
All the
think, in
links.
fact, we've already posted one. We've posted your Spotify, your Instagram, and the latest song with Haricharan. So Ani, what do you struggle with, dear?
Well, I mean, just I don't know. I mean, sometimes, I mean, I have the experience. I've been around, with bands that have done a lot of good things. But this is like a constant restart. The process itself. I mean, I've had to go through the entire thing with Advaita. We've had our very, very good years. We've had the slow years. We've had the years where nothing's happened. The same kind of stuff is happening with Shadow and Light. Of course, we have a lot of albums, but then there's always that question of what next? What are we going to do? And of course, with the situation around the world right now, where health is the primary concern, of course.
Yeah.
But as a musician, again, you do feel, that sudden question mark that was it the right choice years ago?
To be a musician.
Yeah, to be a musician or
Yeah.
to take up a profession which is not a typical profession, which
Right.
allows you to just be with a safety net that's much bigger than, let's
Larger,
say, a
yeah.
music.
Honestly, there is no safety net because
There is
I
no
think
safety net.
COVID
Yeah.
has proved that, you could be a teacher and there are so many schools that are shutting down because
That's right.
they literally don't have students showing up
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
visas, international flights. I mean, there is literally no safety net. So, my answer is always, is my sort of tummy happy and do I sleep well, and for me, if those two are okay, I'm okay. Like, this is a good decision for today. And I think sometimes you can only make decisions based on the knowledge you have at that point. And yeah, I think you both are like, yeah, jamming. So what do you do when do you ever take a break from music?
Well, early on for me, it was just to roll down my car windows and just hear traffic and noise
I love it.
to cancel out music inside my head or sound in general. But now that even that's not happening, I feel like, there's so much screen time that's happening these days for everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm glued to the screen constantly.
What
So
are you playing
s-
games?
I actually took out my PS4 after like 3 years or something.
What?
And yeah. And I did complete a game.
Oh God.
A
And
game.
a game. Just a
Lydia and
game.
you
Full.
can
Correct.
Oh yeah, yeah.
compete.
Let's exchange
Must,
games.
yes.
I love it.
But that was a good space to actually go into that virtual world
Yeah.
and then just try and have fun, not think about anything else,
Yeah.
and just rejuvenate yourselves and
Mhm.
just come back to reality again.
Yeah.
That helps
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, it helps him a lot because I'm wandering around cleaning the
And I don't know
floor.
she's
I'm
there.
on my all fours making a snow angel with the jadu pocha, and Ani's just like, "Wow, this is amazing graphics."
But I do that only because I know I have to get back to dishwashing after that.
Fine.
Ah ha ha.
So I'll do a whole round, play the game, then go back
He's
to
the
it.
king of doing bartan. I have to accept
Okay.
that.
Okay. And who cooks more? Okay.
Because it's safer for everybody. in
Correct.
the
Correct.
house
Correct. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the structure of the house.
I'm a consumer.
Consumer. I love it. And then Pavitra, what do you do to chill out or get away from music if you need to?
Oh, lots of things. I have periodic phases of different non-musical activities,
Which is
start
very
from-
healthy. Let me just say, it is extremely healthy. Yeah.
So I paint and doodle a lot. In fact, all of the artwork in the house is just all of the things that I've doodled. And every time I doodle something, it's because I'm stressed by something. So it has
Wow.
a specific meaning and reason.
Ah.
And most recently discovered my obsession as plant lady. So I'm growing a small jungle outside the
Yay,
house.
me
So
too.
you can see a little bit behind us.
I like them. Do you name your plants?
No. Right now
Why?
I'm teaching Ani the names of the plants.
plants, yeah.
So we are still in
And I still
bring
use
the
my app and I
spider.
just say, okay, yeah, I know the name. It's
I will say,
Also-
if you named them, he would
Yeah.
learn what their
Yeah.
species is.
Perhaps.
It's all about. My
Maybe-
plant is called Herbie.
Oh, so
Oh,
sweet.
that's
Yeah, so we actually, what did we name? We didn't name. We tried to name our pet fish, but now we have over 100 and we've lost track
Yeah,
of
we named them on
names.
musical notes. We had Sarigama Padanisa
Mm.
earlier,
Yeah.
and now there are over 100.
Now
fish
they just number one and that
We'll
black
go
Oh,
to
that's
one.
like number one. Number two is like how Oni makes new tracks, basically. New
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
New
1.1.
double W.
Master
one.
final maybe question.
Then we have that one orange one. We're like, okay, that one.
Okay.
Yeah, now we're
I
like
love
that.
it. I love that.
Oh,
I love that.
wow.
So
Yeah,
it's very
we-
cool. Lydia has a lot of connections with Pavitra, with the doodling and the graphics, and in fact, and the owl. Is the frame behind you? Is that something you made as well?
Yeah. This
Yeah.
one and this one.
Cool. But you said that it comes out of some sort of stress. So now the thing is, you made it out of stress. Does it remind you of that incident?
No, but it does remind me that I got over that incident
Ah.
with a positive, like, framed photograph.
Very
This one
nice.
is actually about bipolarity. That's why it has two colors.
Oh, that's cool.
Each of it has like a specific psychological aspect. Also.
Wow. I like that. I like that. Lids, you were going to say something, no, love?
We got another question. They ask, Soulfly, how do you make intuitive chord changes and arrangements which work with classical, semi-classical melodies?
How, Oni? How?
How? I guess with experience, you kind of learn to trust your first instinct towards a melody. And I think, let's say if it's a Tamil song where I don't know the language, most recently Yaromillai, uh, I didn't know what the song was about, but the melody gave me a certain feeling, and I kind of, you know, reinterpreted that with my voice, which is the piano, and then I built around it. Like I mentioned earlier, I mean, I'm trying to highlight that melody. To me, it was purely a love song, and Pavitra later told me that it was not really love as in romantic love, but I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
actually,
she
it's
can tell you what.
interesting because, and we did translate it so Ani could get a word-to-word translation. But I wrote it as an artist seeking inspiration and the cycle of starting from when does your poem become a song? Because I experienced that cycle so much. And Ani didn't know the language, thought it was a love song. Haricharan knew the language, still thought it was a love song. So I feel like language really, you can interpret that piece of art so many ways
Totally.
that sometimes language really doesn't matter. But in terms of classical and semi-classical, there are some tracks. So in Shadow and Light, we know that we can go outside the scale or the rag
Right.
that it's inspired
You have
from.
given yourself permission to do that. Right.
Yeah, but there are some songs where I'm like, no, that is not working. Come back to the rag.
Because of the characteristic of that rag itself and where
Exactly.
where it sits within you.
Yeah,
Got it.
something inside will be like, no, change it.
Yeah.
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 So some songs are given complete like freedom. You go anywhere with it, and some stick to very few stick right there. So I'm like, Ani, something is wrong. Change it.
I've always, I mean,
That's cool.
from the beginning, wanted to explore different modal harmonies coming together. I just feel, there's a certain tension that comes through when you mix different modes. But I have to say that, the Hindustani system is so interesting by itself. It's so deep that when you hear something rag based, there's a very strong melody that's coming through. So half the work I feel is done already, and it's easier for me to then link the chord changes accordingly, and then it's about experimenting. But I don't try and just play a chord because I know a chord. It has to make sense. Like I said in the beginning, that when you remove the melody, just the chordal changes by themselves need to maybe narrate the same story,
Yeah.
or it should feel like, yeah, this is the change that's needed here. And maybe I'll put in a lot of things initially without stopping myself, and then I start muting and taking out layers, as opposed to just thinking, this what is the next element going to be.
Yeah. Each element
Because
has
then
to
you
be
can't
complete
grow.
on
It's,
its own.
it's very hard to just think so much and
Yeah.
overthink a song.
I love that. I also really like that you both are willing to listen and take critique or take input, from each other. And I mean, and I've always had that experience, especially having worked with Ani for many years, that, anytime someone says, can we do something else? You're like, huh, sure. And I would love to get more of that within myself. And which brings me to a last naughty question. What is something that you know about each other that the other one will not admit?
Wow.
And that'll be our last question for the day. So, choose wisely. So much pressure I put.
I already have the list in my head. So if
Start. List, she
So-
says.
Number one. Ani will tell everybody and himself that his reactions are very zen and calm and non-violent.
Non-violent. Oh, no. Okay.
It's a big drama
No,
fest.
there's no fight.
All
Lots
that
of
we talked about
stomping.
for one hour, we've talked about, you've debunked. Cool.
No violence,
Okay.
only cellos.
So
Oh my
it's like,
God.
Oh my god.
oh
Sorry.
no.
It had to be there. One.
I was late to that
I'm
party.
so happy that you did at least one pun.
At least one.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Pun and only.
Okay.
Pun
so
and
that.
only.
Second thing is Ani's a germaphobe. And he will not accept it.
That's
I
not true. I think
like
he
cleaning my
totally,
cables.
he accepts it.
Yeah.
No, like when it's especially the cleaning of the house, because we're now initiated into a whole world of domestic
There'll be gloves with
cleanup.
tissues with gloves.
You will not. Yeah, gloves on gloves on gloves, and still you're like 5 feet away from the gooey whatever trash that you need to throw. But he's just like, I'm like, it's done. Let's
But
move
it's
on.
strange when it comes to trash. I'm like that, but then I can clean dishes without feeling
Yeah, it's
anything icky about it.
Selective
So it's
Because
very-
you
yeah,
know,
it's-
the person who dirtied it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I
Or
guess.
what did?
Isn't it the same with the trash though?
It is kind of. You can't see the germ.
I don't know if it's
You know,
just
it's a
the germ or just
familiarity
the-
thing.
This, I don't know. It's
Yeah, it's
compost.
very
Like I
weird.
can't look at compost, but
You
I can
cannot
look
look at compost. That's
Yeah,
so
like
interesting.
yeah,
Compost
He's
can
not
look like
allowed in my garden anymore.
only compositions. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oni,
Okay.
do you have one which Pavitra will
Many.
not admit? I love this. I'm glad
I
we
don't
asked
know.
this question.
Sh- mm,
I admit most things.
yeah, she's. I mean, like lists and
Yeah, yeah.
overthinking, but she admits. Yeah,
That's like
she's.
my game
That's
plan.
yeah. It's
I
like
can tell you one. I can admit something which I've
Oh,
never admitted.
wow.
Rohit is going to like freak out.
What?
But some of the puns I kind of like. And I will say only that much. That is the, yeah.
Wow.
is gone
We
live
have
now.
witnesses.
Yeah, yeah.
We
It's
have
on record.
That's a lot of
witnesses.
witnesses.
It is on
Some.
record.
Wow.
I think
Some.
we should stop before she changes her tune. This has been the most amazing. No, really, though. This has been the most amazing. And wait, we always do a customary mug shot. See what I did there? So, mug shot. You're welcome, Pavitra. And hopefully, someone, whoever's online, will you take a photo of us? 1, 2, 3. Hee hee. Yay. And
Somebody did.
I hope someone did. I know. Usually
Oh, worst case
somebody's parent has taken, so we're very grateful. And it usually happens. So yeah, we're very, very just delighted that you could both be with us. And thank you for
Thank you
just
so
being
much for
yourselves.
doing this, and it's always lovely to talk to you and Lydia, and it's amazing to be able to just be yourself and just have a casual conversation. I mean, there's no overthinking it, and there's so many things we really relive through these questions, and
Yeah.
it's good that we actually believe in
I'm
everything.
now regretting the pun thing. I
The
take
pun
it back.
Okay, I think Lydia, that's our cue. Let's go before she again says it. We love you both. And for anyone who's watching us either live or post, if you scroll through, you're going to see, actually, not scroll through. You know what? Lydia and I will add as many Shadow and Light links in the description. So you can check there and stay in touch with Shadow and Light, follow their journey. They are really just beautiful people, and the art they make is so honest and authentic, and it's really coming from an honest and authentic place. And now you've seen the people behind the music, so please do show them all the love you can and continue to support them in any way that you can. And thank you for supporting BIX as well, and we hope to have you both back at Berklee at some point. And or maybe the Indian ensemble comes to India and does a tour and we tour with you.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, that would be kind of
That'd be
cool.
amazing.
New ideas. Okay, well, have a beautiful night. And again, thank you all. And thanks, Lids. And a big hug also to
Thanks, Liz.
Ro, who's hopefully
Yeah.
watching. We miss you. And to everybody, have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. Mwah!
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Hee hee.
Chagupia.